Sarah approaches Michael with a calm smile and says, "I heard your bathroom conversation." His face goes white as he realizes his mother has been 10 steps ahead of him all along. Sarah wakes up at 5:30 a.m., 3 hours before her alarm. She's been thinking about this day for weeks, ever since Michael called to tell her about the wedding. Today her only son marries Lauren, a girl she's met exactly twice. Sarah lies in bed for a moment, listening to the silence of her empty house, then gets up with purpose. In her bedroom, she pulls out the navy blue dress she bought 3 years ago but never had occasion to wear. It still has the tags on it. She bought it thinking she'd wear it to company parties with her late husband Mark, but he passed away before that happened. Now it feels perfect for Michael's wedding, elegant but not flashy, the kind of dress a proud mother should wear. Sarah takes her time getting ready. She styles her graying hair carefully, applies lipstick she rarely wears, and puts on the pearl earrings Mark gave her for their 20th anniversary. Looking in the mirror, she sees a woman trying to look her best for the most important day she's had in years. In the kitchen, Sarah pulls out her recipe box and finds the index card for Michael's favorite lemon bars. The card is stained and yellowed from years of use. She made these for every birthday party when he was little, every school bake sale, every time he came home from college feeling homesick. The handwriting is faded, but she knows the recipe by heart anyway. Hey beautiful soul. Before we dive in, show some love with a like, tap subscribe, and tell me, where in this big beautiful world are you watching from? As she measures flour and sugar, Sarah remembers 7-year-old Michael standing on a chair beside her, trying to crack eggs without getting shells in the bowl. He'd always lick the spoon when she wasn't looking. Those were the days when he needed her, when her presence in his life felt essential rather than optional. She wraps the finished lemon bars in her best dish towel, the one with tiny blue flowers that she saves for special occasions. Next to them, she places the wedding gift she's been saving for, a silver picture frame engraved with Mr. and Mrs. Michael Hartley, and today's date. She hopes they'll put their wedding photo in it. The drive to the lakeside resort takes 2 hours through winding country roads. Sarah has the radio turned down low, classical music mixing with the scent of lemon bars filling her car. She practices conversations in her head, imagining Michael introducing her to his new colleagues as "my mom," maybe asking her advice about marriage, or simply giving her one of his old warm hugs that used to make everything feel right. She pictures herself sitting with the family during the ceremony, being included in photos, maybe even being asked to say a few words about Michael at the reception. Sarah knows she's probably being too hopeful, but she can't help herself. This wedding feels like a chance to reconnect with the son who used to call her every Sunday but now barely remembers her birthday. When the resort comes into view, all glass and timber overlooking the lake, Sarah feels a flutter of nervousness. It's fancier than anywhere she's been since Mark died. She parks her 10-year-old sedan between BMWs and Mercedes, grabs her gift bag and lemon bars, and walks toward what she hopes will be one of the happiest days of her life. Sarah pulls into the resort parking lot and immediately feels out of place. Valet attendants in crisp white uniforms rush to open doors of luxury cars, Mercedes, BMWs, and Range Rovers with pristine paint jobs. Her 10-year-old Honda Civic, clean but showing its age, looks humble among the expensive vehicles. She watches other guests emerge from their cars in designer outfits, laughing confidently as they hand over their keys. She parks herself at the far end of the lot, double-checking that she's locked the doors. The gift bag with the silver picture frame feels suddenly inadequate in her hands. Walking toward the resort entrance, she passes groups of well-dressed people who seem to know each other, their conversations filled with mentions of country clubs and vacation homes she's never heard of. Inside the resort lobby, everything gleams. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the pristine lake, and fresh flower arrangements fill the air with expensive perfume. Sarah approaches the check-in table where a young woman with perfect makeup sits behind stacks of name tags and programs. "Name please?" the coordinator asks without looking up from her clipboard. "Sarah Hartley." "I'm Michael's mother," Sarah says, hoping the title might mean something special. The girl scans her list with a manicured finger. "Oh yes, here you are." She hands Sarah a plain white name tag with Sarah printed in simple black letters. No ribbon, no special designation, nothing to indicate her relationship to the groom. Sarah notices the bride's family members picking up their tags nearby. Each one has a gold ribbon reading "Family of the Bride" in elegant script. Lauren's mother gets a special corsage along with her name tag. Her father receives a boutonniere that matches the groomsman. Sarah clips on her plain tag and tries not to feel the difference. Following the flow of guests, Sarah enters the ceremony space. The first 3 rows are marked with small signs, reserved for immediate family. She looks for her name on one of the cards but doesn't find it. An usher in a black tuxedo approaches her with an uncomfortable smile. "Are you family or friend of the bride or groom?" he asks politely. "I'm Michael's mother," Sarah replies, expecting to be directed to the front. The usher's eyebrows raise slightly and he glances at his seating chart. Let me see here." He flips through pages, clearly not finding her name in the family section. "How about this nice spot in the 4th row?" He gestures to a seat behind Michael's college fraternity brothers, who are already joking loudly and taking selfies. Sarah sits down alone, placing her purse carefully on her lap. Around her, the fraternity boys discuss their weekend golf games and compare notes on their stock portfolios. They don't acknowledge her presence. In front of her, she can see the reserved family section filling up with Lauren's relatives, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and family friends, all chatting warmly with each other. When Michael enters from the side door with his groomsmen, Sarah's heart swells with pride. He looks handsome in his black tuxedo, nervous but happy. She waves slightly, hoping to catch his eye, but he's focused on Lauren's family in the front rows. He shakes hands with Lauren's father, hugs her mother warmly, and poses for photos with her grandparents. His eyes briefly scan the crowd and land on Sarah. He gives her a polite smile and a small nod, the same acknowledgement he might give any family friend. No special recognition, no mouthed "I love you." No gesture that says, "That's my mom and I'm glad she's here." Sarah settles back in her seat, surrounded by strangers, watching her son treat Lauren's family with the warmth and attention she'd hoped would be hers. The ceremony hasn't even started, and she already feels like a guest at her own son's wedding rather than the woman who raised him. The reception hall buzzes with energy as guests find their assigned tables. Sarah follows the crowd, clutching her small purse and looking for her name among the elegant place cards scattered across round tables draped in cream linens. She walks past tables marked with signs like groom's colleagues, bride's college friends, and family circle, hoping to find herself seated somewhere meaningful. Finally, near the back corner of the room, close to the swinging kitchen doors, she spots a simple card with Sarah, written in the same plain font as her name tag. No table designation, no special marking. She's seated between an insurance salesman named Bob who's never met Michael, and an elderly woman named Dorothy who raises alpacas in Vermont and knows Lauren from a quilting circle. As Sarah settles into her chair, she notices the closer tables have small frame photos of the bride and groom at different ages, elegant centerpieces with white roses, and better lighting. Her table has a single small arrangement of daisies and sits directly in the path of waiters rushing back and forth from the kitchen. Every few minutes, the doors swing open with a crash of dishes and shouted orders from the chef. Bob immediately launches into a detailed explanation of his insurance products, while Dorothy shows everyone photos of her alpacas on her phone. Neither asks Sarah how she knows the happy couple. When Bob finally inquires, Sarah says, "I'm Michael's mother," and both tablemates nod politely before returning to their own conversations. They talk across her for most of the evening as if she's invisible. From her distant table, Sarah watches the head table where Michael and Lauren sit with their wedding party. Lauren's parents are seated at the table directly in front of them, close enough for easy conversation. Throughout dinner, Sarah sees Michael lean over to chat with Lauren's father, laugh at her mother's stories, and pose for photos with their extended family. Every interaction looks natural and warm. During the toasts, Lauren's father stands first, sharing funny stories about Lauren's childhood and welcoming Michael into their family with genuine affection. Lauren's brother follows with tales of sibling adventures and embarrassing moments that make everyone laugh. Lauren's college roommate gets the microphone next, telling stories about late-night study sessions and wedding dress shopping. Sarah sits straighter in her chair, expecting to be called up next. After all, she's the groom's mother. She has stories, too, about Michael's first steps, his little league games, the way he used to help her bake cookies every Sunday. She practiced a short speech during the drive here, something heartfelt about watching her boy become a man. But the microphone moves to Michael's best man instead, then to Lauren's maid of honor. At one point, someone at a nearby table calls out, "When does the groom's mom speak?" Lauren laughs brightly and says, "Oh, maybe later if there's time," then quickly transitions to cake cutting. There is no later. Sarah never gets the microphone. Dinner arrives as pre-plated chicken that's already cold by the time it reaches their back table. The butter roll sits untouched beside overcooked vegetables that taste like they've been under heat lamps too long. Sarah picks at her food while watching other tables receive their meals hot and fresh. As the evening progresses, Sarah realizes Michael hasn't visited her table once. He works the room like a politician, stopping at every table to thank guests and pose for photos. She watches him hug his college friends, chat with Lauren's work colleagues, and even spend time with elderly relatives he's just met. But he never makes it to the back corner where his mother sits waiting. The dancing begins, and Sarah watches Michael dance with Lauren, then with her mother, then with her grandmother. Each dance looks joyful and meaningful. Sarah sits alone at her table, smoothing her navy dress and checking her watch, wondering when her son might remember she exists. As the dancing continues and her tablemates drift away to mingle, Sarah feels the weight of the evening settling heavily on her shoulders. The kitchen doors beside her table keep swinging open, releasing bursts of hot air and the clatter of dishes being washed. She needs a moment away from the noise, away from watching her son treat everyone else like family while she remains forgotten in the corner. Sarah makes her way toward the restrooms, walking carefully in her low heels across the polished floor. The women's lounge is tucked down a quiet hallway, away from the reception noise. It's elegant and spacious, with soft lighting and a sitting area with velvet chairs. She's grateful for the silence as she touches up her lipstick and takes a few deep breaths. As she's about to leave, she hears voices coming from the adjacent room, the bridal suite where Lauren got ready earlier. The door isn't completely closed and sound carries easily through the thin walls. Sarah recognizes Michael's voice immediately, that familiar tone he uses when he's being serious about something important. "I'm telling you, Lauren, Mom is living in that big 4-bedroom house all by herself," Michael is saying. "She's been there since Dad died 4 years ago, and I don't think she really understands her financial situation. Dad always handled everything, the bills, the investments, all of it." Sarah freezes, her hand on the bathroom door handle. She shouldn't be listening, but something in his tone makes her stay. Lauren's voice responds, clear and matter-of-fact. "Your mom seems sweet, Michael, but she's what, 68? That's exactly the age when people start making bad financial decisions. What if she falls for one of those scam calls? What if she starts giving money away to fake charities?" "That's exactly what I'm worried about," Michael continues. "She's too trusting. Remember how she gave that contractor $3,000 up front last year for roof work he never finished? She's an easy target." Sarah's chest tightens. She remembers that contractor situation differently. She'd researched him thoroughly and checked his references. When he tried to overcharge her for additional work, she'd refused to pay and threatened to report him to the Better Business Bureau until he finished the job properly. "So what are you thinking?" Lauren asks. "I've already talked to Jim's law firm about power of attorney," Michael says, his voice dropping lower. "It's really common for adult children to handle their parents' finances. Mom trusts me completely. She still asks me to help her with her computer and her cell phone. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her if I explain it's for her own protection." "That actually makes a lot of sense," Lauren agrees. "My aunt did the same thing with my grandmother. Once you have power of attorney, you can make sure she's not wasting money on things she doesn't need. That house is way too big for her anyway. She could move somewhere smaller, more manageable." Sarah feels like the floor is tilting beneath her feet. They're not talking about protecting her. They're planning to control her. They think she's some helpless old woman who can't manage her own life. "The best part is Mom has no idea how much Dad actually left her," Michael continues. "She thinks it's just enough to get by. She has no clue about the investment accounts or the real estate portfolio. If I handle everything, she won't have to worry about any of it." If only they knew, Sarah thinks, her hands trembling slightly. If only they knew that their helpless target has been successfully managing over $7 million for 4 years, that she reads every financial statement carefully, and that she's grown those investments by 20% since Mark died. She stands there in the hallway, listening to her son and his new wife plan to treat her like an incompetent child, and feels something shift inside her chest. Not heartbreak this time, something sharper and more dangerous. Clarity. Sarah stands in that hallway for a long moment, letting the full weight of their conversation settle in her mind. Her hands have stopped trembling. The hurt is still there, but it's been joined by something else, a cold, clear understanding of exactly who her son has become. She takes a deep breath, smooths her navy dress, and walks back toward the reception with purpose. Instead of returning to her forgotten table in the corner, Sarah approaches the bar where several guests are gathered. She recognizes Robert Morrison, Lauren's father, a successful real estate developer who's been polite but distant all evening. He's talking with two other men about market trends and interest rates. "Excuse me, Robert," Sarah says with a warm smile, stepping into their conversation circle. "I wanted to thank you again for raising such a lovely daughter. Lauren seems perfect for Michael." Robert turns to her with the same polite attention he's shown all evening. "Oh, of course. Sarah, right? Michael's very lucky." "He certainly is," Sarah agrees. "You know, this whole wedding has me thinking about family planning and financial security. I've been reviewing my investment portfolio lately with my financial advisors, and it's amazing how much planning goes into making sure the next generation is set up properly." One of the other men, a lawyer Sarah recognizes from the ceremony, perks up at the mention of financial planning. "Are you working with anyone local? Good financial advice is so important, especially for..." He pauses, clearly unsure how to finish the sentence. "Oh, I have a whole team," Sarah says casually. "My late husband was quite thorough about setting things up. Investment managers, estate attorneys, tax specialists. He made sure I'd never have to worry about being taken advantage of." She lets that last phrase hang in the air for a moment. Robert's eyebrows raise slightly. Throughout the wedding planning, Michael had given the impression that his mother was a simple widow living modestly. "That sounds very comprehensive," Robert says, his tone shifting to something more respectful. "It has to be," Sarah continues, accepting a glass of wine from the bartender. "When you're managing significant assets, you can't be too careful. My husband always said the worst thing that could happen is having family members who think they know what's best for you financially." She takes a sip of wine and smiles. Good thing Michael has never been interested in that sort of thing. The conversation continues naturally, but Sarah notices how the men's body language has changed. They're leaning in slightly, asking more thoughtful questions about her investment strategies and diversification approaches. Word spreads the way it always does at social gatherings through whispered conversations and meaningful glances. Sarah moves through the reception methodically. She mentions her real estate holdings to Michael's college friends. She discusses charitable giving strategies with Lauren's aunt. She talks about market volatility with Michael's boss, who had barely acknowledged her existence during the ceremony. Each conversation is brief and natural but strategic. Sarah isn't lying, she does have all these things. She's simply allowing people to understand that the quiet woman in the navy dress isn't the helpless widow they assumed she was. Within an hour, the entire reception knows that Michael's mother is far more financially sophisticated than anyone realized. The change in atmosphere is almost immediate. Sarah watches from across the room as Michael's boss, Mr. Patterson, who had barely nodded at her during the ceremony, approaches her table with a completely different demeanor. He's carrying 2 glasses of champagne and wearing the kind of smile usually reserved for important clients. "Mrs. Hartley," he says, extending one of the glasses to her. "I don't think we've had a proper chance to talk." David Patterson, Michael's supervisor at the firm. He sits down in the chair Bob the insurance salesman vacated an hour ago. "I had no idea you were so involved in investment management. Michael never mentioned your background in finance." Sarah accepts the champagne gracefully. "Oh, Michael probably doesn't think it's very interesting. Young people today assume older folks don't understand modern markets." She takes a delicate sip. "Though I suppose successfully managing a diversified portfolio for 4 years has taught me a thing or two." Across the room, Michael is slow dancing with Lauren when he notices his boss deep in animated conversation with his mother. His forehead creases in confusion. David Patterson doesn't make small talk with random wedding guests. He only networks with people who matter, wealthy clients, potential investors, influential contacts. "Michael," Lauren whispers urgently as they sway to the music. "Why is your boss talking to your mom like that? And why did my father ask me about her substantial assets during dinner?" "What substantial assets?" Michael's stomach drops. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Mom doesn't have substantial anything. She lives off Dad's pension and Social Security." Meanwhile, Lauren's college roommate Jessica approaches Sarah's table, slightly breathless from dancing. "Mrs. Hartley, my boyfriend works in wealth management, and he's dying to meet you. He heard about your real estate portfolio from someone, and wanted to ask about commercial property investments." Sarah smiles warmly. "That's very flattering, but I'm hardly an expert. Though I suppose owning properties in 3 states does give you some perspective on regional markets." Jessica's eyes widen. 3 states? Wow, that's incredible. The ripple effect continues throughout the reception. Michael watches in growing bewilderment as guest after guest seeks out his mother. His college fraternity brothers, who spent the ceremony making jokes about soccer moms, are now clustered around her table asking about investment strategies. Lauren's sophisticated aunt from Manhattan is taking notes on something Sarah is explaining about tax-advantaged vehicles. During the father-daughter dance, Lauren's father Robert pulls Michael aside. Son, I have to ask, why didn't you mention your mother's financial background during the wedding planning? When Lauren told me you were concerned about your mother's ability to manage money, I assumed something completely different. Michael feels heat rising in his cheeks. I don't understand what you mean. Your mother has been discussing some fairly sophisticated investment approaches tonight. Robert continues. Estate planning, asset diversification, charitable giving strategies. She mentioned working with a team of financial advisors. That doesn't sound like someone who needs help managing her affairs. Across the room, Sarah is now surrounded by a small crowd of guests. Michael's department head is asking about her risk tolerance models. The wedding photographer has stopped taking pictures to listen to her explain something about market timing. Even the normally aloof country club women from Lauren's family are hanging on her every word. Lauren grabs Michael's arm as the song ends. This is a disaster, she hisses under her breath. Everyone's talking about your mother like she's some kind of financial genius. My mom just asked me why we never told them about her impressive portfolio. What portfolio, Michael? Michael stares across the room at his mother, who looks completely at ease as the center of attention. The quiet, simple woman he'd planned to manage and control has somehow become the most impressive person at his own wedding. And he has absolutely no idea how it happened. I need to talk to her, he mutters, but even as he says it, he realizes he has no idea what questions to ask. Michael waits until the crowd around his mother disperses before approaching her table. His hands are slightly shaky as he pulls out the chair beside her, the same spot where his boss had been sitting 20 minutes earlier. Sarah looks up from her wine glass with the same polite smile she's been wearing all evening, but there's something different in her eyes now, a sharpness that wasn't there during the ceremony. Mom, can we talk for a minute? Michael sits down, glancing around to make sure they're relatively alone. The reception is winding down, guests beginning to gather their things and say goodbyes. Of course, sweetheart, Sarah says, her voice warm but measured. What's on your mind? Michael struggles to find the right words. How do you ask your mother why everyone thinks she's wealthy when you've spent years assuming she's barely getting by? I've been hearing some interesting conversations tonight. About investments and financial planning. Sarah nods thoughtfully. Yes, your boss David seems very knowledgeable about market trends. We had a lovely chat about portfolio diversification. Mom, Michael leans forward, lowering his voice. I need to ask you something directly. Did Dad leave you more money than I thought? Sarah sets down her wine glass and looks at her son with complete calm. Michael, before I answer that, I have a question for you. She pauses, letting the moment settle between them. I overheard your conversation in the bridal suite earlier. About power of attorney. The color drains from Michael's face instantly. His mouth opens slightly but no words come out. You were discussing how I'm too trusting, Sarah continues, her voice still gentle but unwavering. How I don't understand finances. How I'll sign whatever you put in front of me. She tilts her head slightly, the way she used to when he was a child caught in a lie. Were you planning to ask me about that soon? Michael's throat feels dry. Mom, we were just worried about you. Living alone in that big house, managing everything by yourself. Michael. Sarah's voice cuts through his stammering with quiet authority. I heard your bathroom conversation. I heard you tell Lauren that I have no idea how much your father left me. I heard you say I'd be easy to manipulate. The word manipulate hangs in the air between them like a physical thing. Michael's face goes from pale to red as the full weight of his exposure settles in. I've been managing over $7 million for 4 years, Sarah says simply. Your father left detailed instructions, introduced me to excellent advisors, and taught me everything I needed to know before he died. I've grown those investments by 20% since then. Michael stares at her as if she's speaking a foreign language. 7 million? The house is paid for. I have properties in Texas and Colorado. My investment portfolio is diversified across multiple sectors. Sarah's voice remains calm, almost educational. I'm not the helpless widow you thought I was, Michael. I never was. Michael looks around the reception hall as if seeing it for the first time. His mother, the woman he'd planned to control and manage, has just revealed herself to be wealthier and more capable than anyone in his life. "I think," Sarah says, standing up and gathering her small purse, "this conversation is over." Sarah walks to her car in the resort parking lot with steady, measured steps. The evening air is cool against her skin, and she can hear the faint sound of music still playing from the reception hall behind her. She doesn't look back. For the first time all day, she feels completely calm. As she drives away from the resort, Sarah passes other wedding guests heading to their cars. Some wave politely, others nod with newfound respect. She acknowledges them with a small smile but doesn't stop. The 2-hour drive home feels different now, not like a retreat, but like a journey toward something better. The country roads are quiet at this hour, with only occasional headlights passing in the opposite direction. Sarah drives with her windows cracked slightly, breathing in the night air. She's not crying, not angry, not even particularly sad. She feels something she hasn't experienced in years. Completely free. Her house looks exactly the same when she pulls into the driveway, but somehow it feels different. As she unlocks the front door, Sarah realizes it's because she's different. This isn't the home of a lonely widow waiting for her son to visit. This is the home of a woman who knows exactly who she is and what she's worth. Sarah hangs up her navy dress carefully, the one she'd hoped would make her look like a proud mother. She'd been a proud mother tonight, just not in the way she'd expected. She'd been proud of her own strength, her own intelligence, her own ability to handle herself with dignity under pressure. She makes herself a cup of tea and sits at her kitchen table, the same table where she'd eaten breakfast nervously just 12 hours ago. The lemon bars she'd made for Michael are still in her car, probably forgotten in the gift bag along with the silver picture frame. She realizes she doesn't care. The next morning, Sarah wakes up naturally at 7 a.m., rested and clear-headed. She makes herself scrambled eggs and toast, sits in her favorite chair by the window, and opens her address book to find Carol's number. Carol had been her lawyer when Mark was setting up the estate planning, and she'd stayed in touch over the years. "Carol, it's Sarah Hartley," she says when the familiar voice answers. "I need to make some changes to my will." They meet that afternoon at Carol's office, a cozy space filled with law books and family photos. Sarah explains what happened at the wedding, her voice steady and matter-of-fact. Carol listens without interruption, occasionally nodding or making notes. "So you want to remove Michael as beneficiary entirely?" Carol asks when Sarah finishes. "Completely," Sarah confirms. "I want to set up a charitable foundation instead. Something that helps women who are transitioning after loss, financial planning, education, legal support, that sort of thing." Carol smiles. "I think that's a wonderful idea. Your husband would be proud." As they work through the paperwork, Sarah feels a deep sense of satisfaction. The money Mark left her won't be going to someone who saw her as an obstacle to overcome. It will go to women who need the same kind of protection and empowerment she'd found. That evening, Sarah's phone rings twice. She sees Michael's name on the caller ID both times and lets it go to voicemail. She doesn't listen to the messages. Instead, she pours herself a glass of wine, sits on her back porch overlooking the quiet lake, and watches the sunset paint the water gold. For the first time in 4 years, Sarah isn't waiting for anyone to call, visit, or need her. She's simply present in her own life, in her own home, surrounded by her own choices. She raises her glass in a small toast to Mark, to herself, and to the future she's just claimed back. The silence around her doesn't feel empty anymore. Feels like freedom.